For more analysis on where things may go from here, I spoke to James Phillips, Senior Research Fellow for Middle Eastern Affairs at the Heritage Foundation.
Well, I think the president and Iran are both pausing to evaluate what just happened, and I think both sides are signaling desire to de-escalate, but yet warning that there could be future clashes if things go back to the way they were in Iraq before this most recent crisis.
If we take a look at what's going on in the region, you have Hezbollah calling for Iran to continue to make strikes. You have Iran saying that as long as sanctions are in place, there's really no need to have discussions. And yes, the pause button appears to have been pushed on either any kind of further escalations. Has the needle moved substantially to change the situation?
I think it has changed substantially in Iraq, both for the better and for the worse. I say for the better in the sense that Iran no longer can operate in Iraq under the assumption that it will not face repercussions. And up until recently, it's been acting with impunity to hide behind its proxies to launch attacks. And the strike on General Soleimani, if nothing else, will lead to enhanced deterrence of Iran in Iraq. The bad news is that Iraqi militias tied to Iran still remain heavily armed, and one of them, led by Qais al-Hazali, has called on his followers to follow Iran's example to avenge the airstrike that killed Soleimani. So I think there's a chance that although Iran publicly is stepping back, Iran's puppets in Iraq are likely to step forward.
Well, what kind of impact could that have if those claiming loyalty or supporting Iran's government carry out action against, say, U.S. forces or U.S. allies in the region?
Well, the last time that happened in Iraq, the U.S. responded with 5 airstrikes, including 2 that were in Syria. And that signaled a willingness to escalate outside the Iraq theater to hurt Kataib Hezbollah, which launched the December 27th attack in Syria as well as Iraq. So if it happens again, there's a possibility that this could spread eastward instead of westward at targets linked to the Revolutionary Guards. But that's something that Iran cannot rule out at this point. And after the death of General Soleimani, I think President Trump has a lot more credibility in Tehran.
And what kind of implication would that have for the region? Because we're not talking just about Iran, Iraq, but Israel and other countries in the Gulf area as well could all be affected by this.
Yes, and they already have been affected by Iran's long-term campaign to set up proxy militias. I mean, Israel and Iran essentially have been at war in Syria, and Israel has launched hundreds of airstrikes that have killed Iranian Revolutionary Guards and their Syrian proxies. So that's nothing new for Israel. Other countries long have resented Iran's efforts to subvert and radicalize members of their Shia populations and its efforts to work with Sunni extremist groups. So, I think behind the scenes there are many in the region that are happy that the Revolutionary Guards have been brushed back.
That was Heritage Foundation Senior Research Fellow for Middle Eastern Affairs, James Phillips, speaking to me from his office in Washington.